Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thanks as always for making your way here. Check out the series. Of course, you know what to do. If you like what you see, what you hear, hit that subscribe button. I put out 3 new interviews every single week, new one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So it's a great way to keep up with your favorite artists and discover some new ones at iTunes and Apple Podcast, at Spotify, Podchaser, NPR, WFPK.org, or of course, right here on YouTube. I'm Kyle Meredith. Today, can't believe I get to say this, my guest, Arnold Schwarzenegger. We're going to be talking about a couple things, actually. So he's got a series on Netflix. It's called Fubar. This is the first time that he's ever done a TV series. So we're going to be talking about why that is, what took him so long, why now this is the time, and how it kind of stems from the movie True Lies, the hit 90s movie. Because here he is once again as a CIA agent, but his family doesn't know about it. Where we up the game and sort of double the stakes of True Lies is he also has a daughter who is also a secret CIA agent, and he doesn't know about it, nor does the rest of the family. That's not a spoiler. It's in the trailer. So that's where the hilarity starts. And there's a lot of hilarity because the rest of the cast is all fleshed out by some great comedians. Fortune Feimster's in here. Travis Van Winkle, who's also on this series. You got Scott Thomas from Kids in the Hall. You got Adam Pally on here. You got Tom Arnold in a cameo situation. And that's just a few of them. So we're going to be talking about the comedy of the series. We're, of course, going to be talking about the action of the series and what it means to be an action hero today. In fact, that's sort of what segs into the other part of this interview. Along with Fubar on Netflix, Netflix is also going to be releasing a 3-part documentary called Arnold. Now, it's 3 parts because when you think of Arnold's life, it's in 3 main sections. You have the late 60s and into the 70s when he was a world-class bodybuilder, the greatest bodybuilder in the world at that time, maybe the universe. And so that's what the first part of the documentary is on. And then the second part focuses, of course, on his movie career in the 80s and 90s when he becomes one of the biggest movie stars in the world, maybe the universe. So that's the era of, really, like we all know this, right? Terminator and T2 eventually, and Commando and Conan, and into True Lies and Last Action Hero. In fact, so one of the things that comes up in the documentary, and one of the things I want to ask about, is how he talks about how it was really the era that he says Reagan's era, Ronald Reagan, president in the 80s, that opened the door for his type of action hero, which was very much in contrast to what was happening in the 70s. And then, as he says, how the press of the Bill Clinton era of the 90s really tried to kind of quash that into being a different sort of action hero in the 90s. Of course, Arnold was doing a lot of comedy around then, too. So we're going to be talking about that, how it relates to what he's doing now in Fubar. And we'll talk a little bit about music, but sort of in a non-way. A bit of a surprising thing when I ask somebody about their favorite music. All that's and a whole lot more. Let's just jump into it, shall we? We're talking Fubar and we're talking the Arnold documentary, both on Netflix. It's Kyle Meredith with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Hey, how are you?
So great. It's an honor, pleasure to talk to you. Let me congratulate you on Fubar. I've laughed. I might have cried. I might have cheered. I mean, all the emotions are in on this one. It's such a fun series. And it's the first time it's a TV series. What took so long? Because this really is. This is a hell of a ride.
Well, it takes sometimes a lot of time to get people convinced that it would be a good idea to do a TV series based on True Lies. As much as it has been difficult for me to convince them to do a series on Conan, the Barbarian, or on Twins, I think all of those would be great ideas for a TV series. It's just that sometimes it takes a long time to convince people. But I think the time has come where TV series became really hip to do. And now a lot of, great actors are wanting to be involved in the TV series, and they are involved in TV series. And it's just a new way of, streaming and having millions and millions of people get entertained by them. So But I'm just happy that it finally happened, and that we did it. And now on May 25th, it's coming out, and we're very excited about that.
Yeah. I see it also gives you a chance to do long form storytelling, to really stay with the character. I mean, is that noticeable, really being able to embody, this person for that long?
Well, it's different in a movie, because in a movie, while you're shooting this TV series, you maybe do 2 movies, and you play 2 different characters. Here you have to just stay on being the same character for a longer period of time. And I think the rhythm is a little bit different. You get to play your character, but in many different ways, under many different circumstances, more so than in a movie, because here you're doing 8 hours versus just 2 hours, which normally movies are. And so I think it was a lot of fun to do that. And it was, even though it was hard work, but we had a great time. And I was very fortunate to have a really great cast surrounded, and they added so much to the project.
Yeah, so many comedians. I just felt like I was watching one of those, old movies where it's like cameo after cameo, and everybody makes sense, whereas maybe they didn't in those movies. But it was like seeing you and this entire cast of comedians, and they get to do the action too. I mean, maybe that was always meant for the script that way, but was that part of something you wanted to work with, just that type of roster?
No, I just wanted to really work with talented people and people that really can support me, because there's just to sell this story of me being this top CIA agent, and so is my daughter. The only thing is I don't know about it, even though I'm her father and she's my jewel of my life. And I think that I know her well, but I don't know anything about her. And then we find out in the first episode a lot about their relationships and how everything was a lie and all that stuff. And to play that, and to play the ex-wife, and to play the new boyfriend of the ex-wife, and to play all of those different characters, my partner in the CIA, or the boss of the CIA, they all have to be very, very talented actors. And so I was very excited that I was surrounded by talented actors, because they made me shine. And that's why I think we have gotten such a huge response to our Fubar TV series.
Yeah, it is fun. And then, coming out just a little bit afterwards, of course, also on Netflix, there's the documentary about your life, the 3-part documentary, which I've enjoyed watching. The first 2 parts that they give me so far. And kind of the things that you talk about in there, and applying it to Fubar. I mean, if we've learned one thing, it's that the hero never really gets to hang it up. There's always one more job. They never get to retire. And I don't know if that applies, and I think that applies the same way to your life too, because hearing you talk about, having such a strong work ethic and being useful, how much of, does having an obsessive behavior have to fall into that too?
Well, I think that there's some commonality there, because I think that, to me, it was always about discipline and about having a very clear vision where I want to go. And that's what made me kind of be able to do what I did. I had a very clear vision when I was a kid to be a bodybuilding champion. I had a very clear vision of that I wanted to come to America and to get into movies. And as a kid, I dreamt about getting into movies and being rich and famous. That was it. That was the dream. Come to America, be a bodybuilding champion, and get in the movies and be rich and famous. So, but I mean, that all sounds kind of like, okay, how are you going to figure out doing that? And through discipline and through believing in what you do and in your vision, it was possible to do. And it's no different than Bruno, the character that I play in our TV series. It's like a guy that is really committed. His vision is to save the world. His vision is to work for the CIA and to protect this country from evildoers. And so he's totally committed to that. Except where the comedy comes in is because when he comes home to his family, all his talents and his power and everything falls apart, and he has to deal with the everyday stuff that everyone in a family has to deal with.
Yeah, and hilarity ensues, as you say. It really does. There was another thing you were talking about in the documentary as well that I found really fascinating, because you said, once Reagan came in and it was Bet on America, that really opened the door to your type of action hero and thinking about how sociopolitics affects our love for movies, which is not something I really thought about much. Maybe that's just something that we see in hindsight, but do you consider that when you're taking on a new project like this, like I guess the environments that we actually live in?
No, not really. I mean, maybe some people do, maybe studio executives do, but I don't. And to me, this whole development was a big surprise, I have to tell you. And I think it has something to do with that Reagan was such a force, and I think that he brought along with him not only very interesting policies and bringing America back and all of this stuff and become a military power again and be respected internationally and all of those things, but we did not know that this also had an effect on the movie industry and that the big action heroes that defend their country and fight for their country and and all of that power and strength and law and order would become such a big part of this whole thing. Then in the 90s, of course, when Clinton became president, then the press kind of wanted to unwind this whole thing. And that was artificial, because in reality, people still were interested in action movies. They still were interested in the one man fighting against a big army and taking out the evil people and taking out the villains and all of that stuff. So that was still in. So they tried to write negative stuff, like kind of the Reagan era is and the Bush era is out, the Clinton era is in. It's now much more the future is much more the gentle, the hero, and they try to kind of bring a spin to the whole thing that really never came true, because they tried to destroy, for instance, Last Action Hero, because they said, well, the action hero doesn't work anymore, and they literally destroyed it before they ever saw it. But then they had to eat it, because when the True Lies came out, as the next movie, they went through the roof again, and it was one guy fighting, the villains and all this stuff. So, look, I think that politics has something to do with it, but you can't go and start making movies based on that. So that would be crazy.
Yeah. And by the way, Last Action Hero meant so much to me. As a young man, I didn't read the press. I just knew that I loved the movie. So for whatever that's worth.
Well, thank you.
I know we're running short on time here. I just want to quickly say, big props to the music supervisor. The soundtrack on this was so much fun to hear as well, with Sympathy for the Devil and Spinning Wheel and What a Fool Believes. I was talking with Travis Van Winkle, and I asked the same thing. You have baseball players and wrestlers who have walk-up movies, and I said, do you have an action movie song that you keep in your head to kind of get pumped up? Do you have that?
No, I personally don't need a song to get pumped up. My vision pumps me up. I have a vision, and I'm in a way kind of like a machine. I get up in the morning. I don't ever question, should I go to the gym or not? I just go. I just get on my bike and I just go to the gym. And I basically don't even start thinking until I'm finished with my workout. So therefore, there could not be a thinking involved that says, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should. So this is my rule. I said, don't think in the morning. First, you have to have your workout. In my case, it's first feed the animals, then go and go for your bike ride and your workout. And then I sit down and just start thinking.
Yeah. I loved it. I loved Fubar. I cannot wait. I'm hopeful of a second season. I want to see more of the Muppets around. That's always fun as well.
Oh, it's very funny.
Yeah, and congrats on the documentary as well. Arnold,
Thank you.
It's such an honor and pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good day.
And thanks to my guest. Also, thanks to you for checking out the episode in the series. Before you get out of here, hit that subscribe button. Again, you get 3 brand new interviews every single week. New one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. at right here on YouTube, or of course anywhere in podcast land, including iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, NPR, or WFPK.org as well. A great way to keep up with your favorite artists and discover new ones as well. Then after that, actually head over to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. It's an hour full of song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, bonus interviews, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern at WFPK.org. Consequence has your music and film news. You can also find me on the social media spots, Facebook, Instagram, mostly on Twitter. All three of them, the address is at Kyle Meredith. Do hope you like and follow along. That does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.